Those of you that are new, I also want to thank you for trusting me with your money, with your time to join this course. Now, this course is it's not really a long course, but it's a short course, but it's also at the same time very informative. You're gonna get a lot from it, okay? It's stuff that you need in order for you to start developing applications using JavaScript, okay? So now you might be thinking what this course is about, okay? Well, this course will introduce you to some of the most essential features of ES6. This is stuff that you are going to be using as a developer in all the new applications and some of them in frameworks, okay? You're gonna have frameworks that are gonna be using this code. Remember that if frameworks or developers that are creating frameworks want to keep with technology, want to keep up with technology, they need to start using the new features, okay? Remember that technology is changing all the time. New things are added to old ones and new things are being created, okay? So in this course, we're going to be learning ES6 or EcmaScript 6, which introduces many new features, okay, that make JavaScript more powerful and at the same time easier and fun to code, okay? Now, why you need this? Well, very simple. Most new applications, like I mentioned before, in projects use tools and libraries that use this code, okay? So when you have an application, most of the time there a new application, something that just came up, you're guaranteed to see ES6 or even ES7 or ES8 features, okay? If we have those versions in the future. At the time of this recording, we only have ES6 and some ES7, okay? But they're gonna even name it differently. But I want you to keep in mind that new applications, projects, or libraries use newer code 99.9% of the time, okay? So now I want to give you some of my golden tips, okay? First of all, make goals. You can't just really navigate a ship, right? If you go in the ocean or something, you can't really navigate if you don't have a map, right? So make goals. Say, you know what? Today I'm going to finish Edwin course. It's only an hour or 2 hours long. And then I'm going to go to the next course. And then, or maybe I'm going to create a project. I want to start playing around with it so that way I know what I'm doing. That way I get more practice and that way I can apply this into real life applications, okay? Now, once you make the goals, make sure you finish it. I see so many students that make goals. They finish a course. They almost finish a course and they don't get time to finish it. Or they don't make time to finish it because most of the time we don't have time, right? But we can make it because we make time to watch soap operas, we make time to watch movies, we make time to even eat, to go out and eat, right? We can make time to finish the course. Now, once you finish what you start, guys, continue to study and practice. You need to do this. I would never be here. I would have never been here if I don't study every day. 75% of what I do is study. The other 25% is work. Or I wouldn't call it work because I love what I do, but it's still work, right? I have to come up here, create lectures, create slides, but I have to study because if I don't know the content, I can't teach it. So for you, you need to study and you need to practice if you are if you are a developer, right? So it's something that we must do. You can't just take off 2 months and come back. Okay? Continue to practice consistently because it's just better. Okay? Even if it's a little bit. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you have any issues whatsoever, make a discussion or contact me. I'm very easy to get in contact with. You can go to edwindiaz.com. You can contact me to the message feature in this platform here. You can go edwin at codingfaculty.com. That's my email. Okay? And I'm available. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Hi, welcome back, my dear students. So on this lecture, I want you to download all the files right here on this lecture, no matter what platform you're on. If you're in Udemy or codingfaculty.com or wherever you are, download it right here. Now, for those of you that are using Windows, if you don't have like a zip tool, here's one: www.7-zip.org. You can download that tool for Windows and that will help you unzip the files. If you already have a tool, do not worry about it. If you have a Mac, all you have to do is double click on the file and that's it. Okay, most of the files I actually zip them so that way they are available as the smaller files and they are available in basically in a easier format for you guys to use or to transfer from computer to computer. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back. So let's talk about EcmaScript. First of all, EcmaScript stands for European Computer Manufacturing Association. Okay, so EcmaScript is a standard for JavaScript implementation that was created to make the code more uniform between browsers. This is the problem. You know, every browser, when JavaScript came out, every browser started using a different version of JavaScript in their browser. So there was no really a consistent or more uniform way of having JavaScript being the same across everybody, across all the browsers. So if, Internet Explorer will have one version, Chrome will have another one, or Netscape will have another one, all these different browsers will have different functionality. So when you visit a web page, it will behave differently on that browser, okay? And so they wanted something that was, share across all browsers that was the same. So that's why this company was started. Now, JavaScript was created by a guy named Brandon Ike, okay, who also co-founded the Mozilla project and the Mozilla Corporation. Remember Firefox, that browser? Well, this guy, Brandon Ike, started a whole bunch of, things in there. So, in 1995, when Brandon was hired, Brandon was hired by Netscape, okay? And that's when Netscape asked Brandon, hey, listen, we need you to create a totally different language, okay? A web language that will actually work with our navigator, that will do this and do that, okay? They gave him the specifications, and Brandon said, you know what, I'm a smart guy, I have this degree, and let me just use it. Let me use my knowledge and create this beautiful language, right? It wasn't really actually like that, but he was instructed to create a new language, so he did. And he was instructed to create a new language that was very similar to Java. I don't know if you guys remember Java or if you know Java, but Java is a high-level language. It's a language that's used on the web. It's a language that's used for computer software, okay? Java is a huge language. So that's why it's called JavaScript, right? Now, before then, when he was instructed to create this language, they first named it Mocha and then LiveScript. And finally, in that same month, they said, you know what, let's just call it JavaScript. And that's how the name came out to be. But look at that name. It had Mocha, it had LiveScript, and then JavaScript, okay? Now, in 2000, I think it was, in 1997 actually, okay, that's when the first release, and I think I have one of my slides here, okay. 1997, EcmaScript 1 was released. That was the first specification of JavaScript. This is when the company said, you know what, 1997, we want you to implement these functionalities to all JavaScript versions or JavaScript language, to the JavaScript, to the main JavaScript language. Boom. In 2009, they came out with EcmaScript 5. Now, you might be thinking, what happened to EcmaScript 2, 3, 4, all that? Well, this is what happened. Number 2 and 3 came out right after 1, okay? Well, number 2, number 3, and number 4, they spoke about a little bit about releasing number 4, but they said, you know what, we're not even going to release number 4. Let's just jump right straight to 5. And that's what happened in 2009, okay? In 2015, EcmaScript 6 came out, and this is what this course is about. Now, there's a bunch of new features with EcmaScript 6. We have like some new cool variable declaration just to make our encapsulation of code better. We have let, we have const, we have also function default parameters that we usually see this in other languages, but now we have it with JavaScript. That was something that was missing, and it's pretty cool. Now we have arrow functions, which you're gonna see some of this, and it's also pretty cool because it makes your code shorter. It might be a little confusing for some of you, but it's pretty cool. You'll see. And then we have classes. This is a big one here, okay? Now, because JavaScript, okay, it's not, EcmaScript 6 is not implemented in all browsers yet. As I'm recording this video, we're gonna learn how to make JavaScript actually work with all the browsers, with all the implementations out there, okay? Now, by the time you might be watching this video, maybe EcmaScript 6 is already implemented in all browsers. You don't have to worry about it. You can just use it right out, out of the box basically. But if it's not, then you're gonna have to use one of the tools that I'm gonna show you. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next lecture, guys. Take care. Welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture, I want to talk a little bit about the compatibility of different EcmaScript versions in browsers and show you a way that you can, you know, find out what's available and what's not. So here's the deal. In 2015, right, EcmaScript 6 came out. Great. Now, like I said before, the EcmaScript company, right, or the committee puts the standards, puts the guidelines for each browser to follow. If they don't want to follow, they don't, right? But they should follow it. Some of them are gonna follow it, but they're gonna take their time implementing it. Some of them are going to actually take time to implement. It takes time to implement these features, right? So things are not gonna happen right away. So we need a way to find out what's available and what's not available. So we go to a website like this, and I just looked it up on Google real quick. Click here and right here. And this little table here will let you know what's available. Now, if we go to ES5, you can see some of the features that were introduced and where they are available. ES6, the same thing here. And like I said before, like I mentioned, constant let. As you can see, this is available in these desktop browsers right here. See that? And then let. Okay. Now, you might be asking yourself or asking me in your mind, Edwin, okay, that's fine. But do I have to come here every time I want to implement a feature of ES6, like let's say classes? You want to use classes like you use classes in other programming languages, maybe like PHP or C# or whatever. You want to use classes because, of course, JavaScript never had classes until now. But now you want to use classes and you're not sure if it's, available somewhere. So you're going to come here and look at it physically. Well, that's a good thing to know and to do. But there are other ways. This is what happens when our code is not, or our ES6 code, or ES7, whatever code in the future we are coding, it's not available in other browsers. When it's not available, or you just don't want to bother checking, we use tools to convert our ES6 or ES whatever code into a code that works. Okay. Now we have tools that convert our ES6 to ES5, which is and this is some of the stuff that was introduced, but ES5 has JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, and new features. But that means that whatever code that we transpiled, and that's what it's called, from ES6 to ES5 is going to work 99.9% of the time. Okay, so we have tools that do that, and tools that would transpile code, let's say from 2016 version of EcmaScript. By the way, they're going to be naming it 2016. They're gonna try to use the year now instead of using the numbers. Okay, with new versions of EcmaScript. Just to give you a heads up on that. So we got tools that will allow us to do that. In this course, we're gonna be using tools or a tool to convert our ES6 code and make sure that it works, convert it into ES5. Okay, because some browsers still don't support all the features. Now, even though I'm at the time I'm recording this video, you can see that we have a lot of browsers supporting some of these features. Okay, but we still have some red places here. Okay, and we want to make sure that whatever feature we use is converted to ES5 so that it works 100%, right? So anyway, this is a cool little table to check. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture, I wanted to show you some of the tools that we're going to be using. Well, we're going to be using one of the tools here because it's the most popular one, but I wanted to show you some of the transpilers or compilers, as this page calls them, and some people do. As you can see, this column here, compilers and polyfills. You got a shim here. We got the compilers right here. We got Tracer, super popular. Babel is one of the best ones actually, and Tracer is getting very close to Babel when it comes to features. But Babel is always on top when it comes to having more support for ES6 features. Clojure is another one, very, very popular. But anyway, not as popular as these two right here. Now, I want you to look at the column real quick. And I want to explain to you what what these numbers actually mean. So let's say, for example, let's go to template literals, which is a pretty cool functionality. Actually, let me see. So if I click on Babel, you can see that we got 5, okay, functionalities here, right? We got a basic functionality, to a string conversion, tag templates, pass arrays, frozen, line break, normalism, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 4 out of 5, it's good. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The other one, it's not. You see that? 4 out of 5. This is what these numbers actually mean. So let's go to loops. This is a really good one. Let's go to Clojure here. And you can see that only 6 out of 9, they were able to do 6 out of 9. Babel has all of them, and Treasure has all of them, and Babel has all of them. Clojure does not. Okay, there's also a tool by Chrome that you can, I think it's called Canary. Let me see. Okay, so if you're a developer, okay, and you want to try some of these features out in your browser without having to use any converters or anything like that, the Chrome Canary will allow you to do that. You see, Chrome Canary has the newest of the new Chrome features before. It's designed for developers and early adopters and can sometimes break down completely. So this is the thing. This doesn't work 100% all the time, but it has the newest features as possible before it's implemented in the regular Chrome. Okay. So if you want to go ahead and check this out and download it, that's up to you. But, like I said, this is basically something for you to test. And I mean, if you want to use it, it's there. I just wanted to give you some information about it. Okay. But anyway, that's all I wanted to actually discuss for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Welcome back, my dear students. On this lecture, we are going to be using a compiler to transpile some code. Okay. Remember when I told you that some of the ES features, okay, are not, let's say, for example, in this case, ES6 features are not going to be available in most browsers. But maybe by the time you are looking at, they are, right? But in this case, they're not. So if you are in a later version of EcmaScript, and they have a later version like 2006 or maybe 2017 or whatever, look at what other features they have, click on it, find out what they are, and try to implement it just like I am, just to test things out if you want to. But in this lecture, I want to show you how to use a compiler like Babel to convert ES6 code to ES5 code, okay? And basically, we're going to be using a browser that does not support that feature and a browser that does support the feature, so you can see the difference. So let's say, for example, let's look for something simple here. Template literals, yeah, we can use that, but I don't want to go too far right now because that's a pretty cool feature. I want to go to a very simple feature like const, and this is not supported in, well, IE11 is supporting it. Let's look for IE10. Maybe IE10, I don't think is supporting it. So we can use Babel for that. But before we do that, let's create a folder, name ES6 on our desktop. If you want to go ahead and do that, you can. If you don't worry about it. But I like my students to actually write some code down, okay? Don't get lazy. Let's do it. You're here to learn, and some of you need to write things down so that way it can be on your brain a little longer. Okay, so I just created a file named babel.html. If I click here, it will probably come out, as you can see. And let's just write some JavaScript here. Let's use const name, and it's just gonna have my name in there. Let's console this baby out and let's find out if this version of Chrome that I'm using is supporting this. Make sure you save your file for those of you not using an editor like WebStorm that saves the file automatically. Okay, let's do the We go to console, and as you can see, it is printing it out. So whatever version I'm using of Chrome right now, it's working fine. Okay, we have that ES feature there, ES6 feature, const. Okay, now let's go and find another. Let's go to Windows. I'm using a Mac, by the way. Let's go to Windows. I have a Windows machine here. It's a virtual machine. Okay, so I'm gonna go to full screen now, and I'm gonna show you. I wish I had the whole file here, so I didn't have to write it down again. I could just copy and paste, but I'm just gonna write it down real quick. Const name, and this is a different editor, by the way, if you can tell, which is brackets. Super easy. I want to show you how this is used. Now we are going to be implementing Babel in the runtime, but I'll show you that later. Let me just first show you that this here, let's save the file, make sure we right click on this, and I'm gonna open it up with Internet Explorer. This is 8, by the way. I mean, this is 11. So if you go to console and you refresh here, whatever that is, and let's go back to that file. For some reason 11, that's not showing it. Oh, I misspelled const. There we go. Come on, we don't need that anymore. Let's refresh it, and you can see that it is spelling Edwin Diaz. But let's go to another, and you can see that it is not working in IE10 or IE9 or any other versions before that, but it is working on 11. Okay, now let's go and get Babel. Okay, and there are a couple ways of installing it, so I'm just gonna use CDN right now. Now, one thing to note here with the CDN is that the CDN is going to run slower because it's going to convert the code in runtime. While, I mean, you can also download this to your project, and of course, it's going to work a lot faster. There are a couple ways of doing this. There are a couple tools that you can use to download this. If you're using version 6, okay, what they did is they separated some packages. So some of this stuff is not, if you tried it from the CDN now, if you try version 6, some of the features are not going to work. Okay, version 6 has a preset feature that you can use some of the packages, and we are probably going to be using for this course Node, npm from Node, to download those packages and do the preset so you can see how that works. But anyway, let's use version 5.8 or 5, and I'm just gonna get this guy here. I'm gonna copy this, I'm gonna allow this, and I'm going to right here on the head of the document, I'm going to paste that in there. Okay, I'm gonna save my file. Now if I go to that file, like this file if I go to IE10, that's still not working. Okay, I'm gonna show you why. In order for this to work, you need to change the type of your script tags. Right now by default it's text JavaScript, so we need to change it to, you see this text JavaScript. By default, that's what the type is. If this is a JavaScript file, I think. Let me see. And thus it's not here. But anyway, so let's just say text Babel here, like this, and save it, refresh it, and now you can see that it works. See that? Now if you do JavaScript, you're gonna have the same problem, and you're not gonna see anything there. Okay, so in order for to invoke that functionality, make sure that the type is Babel. And that was a very simple demonstration on how to use Babel. Okay, thank you so much for watching, guys. and I hope you have a good day if you're not watching any more videos today, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Welcome back, my dear students. So on this lecture, we are going to be learning how to use a new tool, if you don't know how to use it, to actually convert our ES6 code, in this case, to ES5 code. Now, in later or future versions of EcmaScript, you might have a version that's 2016, 2017, 2018, whatever version it is. Remember that you're going to be able to use tools like this to convert your code into a more stable code. Maybe a 2018 code to a 2016 code or something like that, okay? Remember that in this case, we're using ES6 and we are converting it to ES5. But before we do that, we need to actually use a tool. And the reason why we're going to be using a tool in this case is because the way that we were doing it in the last lecture was not too efficient, right? It was manual. It was something from the CDN, from somebody else's server. We actually don't want to do that. We want to keep things in our server. We want to keep things in our computer so that way we can have full control of it. It's faster, it's more elegant, it's more efficient. So let's look at the tool that we're going to be using in this case. We're going to be using a tool called Webpack. Now, Webpack is a module bundler, meaning that we're going to have a whole bunch of files, right? And this tool is going to allow us to make it into one specific file, okay? It's going to bundle all this CoffeeScript, CSS, images, whatever it is, into one specific file. In this case, it's going to bundle, let's say, all JavaScript into a bundle.js file. It's going to bundle all the CSS into a bundle.css file. You see what I mean? So instead of making a whole bunch of script tags in your file, and I don't know if you remember, and for those of you that have taken one of my PHP courses, sometimes we have 3 or 4 or 5 even script tags. We have jQuery, we have scripts.js, we have, Bootstrap, all these files. This tool here is going to allow us to bundle all that and into one file, making only one HTTP request at a time, okay? Instead of making all of them one by one, okay? We only have one file to make that request. Now, this tool is not only going to help us bundle everything together into one file, but it's also going to allow us to transform our ES6 or future versions of EcmaScript into a more stabilized version. In this case, it's going to be into ES5 code, okay? Now, for us to download this tool, we can use this tool, okay, in many different ways, but one of the most efficient ways is by using npm from Node.js, okay? Now, for those of you that don't know about Webpack, check me out. I might have a course on Webpack. This is a very efficient tool, and there's a lot more to it than what I'm going to show you in this course. I'm just going to show you this just a little bit so that way we can get going. But if you want to learn more, check me out first. If I don't have it, go ahead, check out somebody else, because this is a really good skill to have, okay? Node.js, let's come back to this. So this is something that every developer should know, especially front-end developer. You should know a little bit of Node.js. This is something that's growing a lot. It's bigger than any package manager out there. It's getting bigger than anything you've seen, okay? So if you're getting to Angular or anything that has to do with JavaScript, this is what you need to get yourself into. Learn about Node.js. Check me out. If I don't have a course, go ahead and get it for somebody else. This is really useful. But anyway, so we're going to be using npm to actually download Webpack. So let's get to it. Let's go ahead and look at our project right here. Okay, go to your terminal or your command prompt and make sure you have Node installed. And you can check by doing node-v, and you can check your version. npm should be there as well. Okay, let's clear this out. And we're going to install, and I'm going to use the sudo command. And if you're running Windows, make sure that you run this as an administrator, your git or your git bash or whatever terminal you're using. Make sure you run it as an administrator. So sudo npm install, and I'm going to do hyphen or -g, and I'm going to say Webpack just to install this globally. That way I can use it anywhere in my projects. I don't have to have it just in project by project basis. So I'm gonna press enter here and put my password. It's gonna take a little bit to install. Okay, just took a couple seconds to install. I had to pause the video. But anyway, so it is installed And all we have to do here now that we have Webpack installed, is that we need to create a package.json file, so that way we can record the documentation of our project and keep our dependency references here as well. So let's say npm init, okay? And now that it's gonna ask for the name of the project, I'm just gonna say project test or something like that. Enter version, enter description, enter entry point. We don't need that now. Enter, enter, and alter Edwin Diaz. Enter, enter, clear. There we go. And now if I click here, you can see that we have a package.json file. This is the file that we are going to be keeping our development dependencies and our regular dependencies for our project, okay? So for example, if I want to download jQuery, I can say npm install jQuery. And I do save. And actually this is a regular dependency. Enter. And as you can see, now this was downloaded here. Now keep in mind that this is also going to download or require the node modules folder, and you can't see it right here, but we should have it in our folder somewhere here, because my editor is actually hiding, as you can see. Okay, see that, how that works? Okay. Now, if you don't know what in the world I'm doing, remember Node.js is a really good course to check out. If I don't have it, somebody else might. But I always, like at the end of my courses, I always offer bonuses for courses. If I don't, make sure that you message me. But anyway, so now that we downloaded Webpack here, let's go ahead and create some folders so that way we can keep going, okay? So usually in a real scenario, in a real project, we'll have assets folder. And maybe inside this assets folder, we'll have a JS folder. Maybe if I take that comma out of there, that would be better. There we go. Okay. And usually we have maybe like a directory. And inside that directory, we have another JS. Okay. Why don't we do this? Let's finish up in the next lecture, just because we're going to have to be writing a little bit of code here. I don't want to confuse you. I want you to digest this information first, okay? So we got a package.json that is going to give us some documentation about our project, and it's going to keep a reference for our dependencies, right? And we downloaded Webpack, okay, globally. And if you want to go ahead and enter this into your version control, go ahead and use Git. If you don't know Git, Git is just a version control tool that will allow you to save the project as you go and save different versions of it. If you don't know about Git, you should know that as well. Check me out. If I don't have it, somebody else will, okay? But anyway, thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Welcome back, my dear students. I hope you guys are having a great day today. Okay, let's get to it. On this lecture, what we're going to be learning is how to convert ES6 code into ES5. And remember, for future versions, whatever code you have at that moment, right, to an earlier version that's compatible with all browsers. Now, keep this in mind. Webpack is not only good for bundling, but it also is good by using transformation tools like Babel, okay, that will allow us to transform ES6 code into ES5. So it's not only good for bundling, but it also we can configure to do other great things. Okay, so this is a Webpack configuration file, okay? And here we can load something called loaders. Babel loader, that's what we're going to be using. We can also do style loading or CSS loaders. We can also do image loaders that will allow us to grab those images and just make them more friendly with our application, right? Compile everything and make it work the best way we want to, right? So the best way it can. So let's get to it. Let's just come here real quick, and I'm going to get another object here. Well, let me see, it's actually loaders. And this is going to be an array of objects. Okay. In this case, we're going to have this object, and we're going to have a key called test. In this, we're going to write a little bit of regular expression. Don't get scared with regular expression. It's not that hard, and we're only going to write one or a couple lines. but in this case, not much. So, oh, by the way, I'll have a regular expression course. If you don't know regular expression, you should have that in your tool belt. You're gonna need it as a web developer. Okay, it's a very short course, by the way, too. So anyway, write it on your wish list. Let's go ahead and get all the JS files. I'm gonna actually terminate that here and finish it. Okay. And let's actually, there's another key here that we can exclude the no modules folder because we don't actually want to include that, right? We just want to look for any files that have the JS, but excluding this guy right here. Okay, remember that this is where we have all our dependencies, okay, for a project in no modules. Okay, what else we need? We need, let me see if I'm doing this correctly here because my editor is kind of playing. Let me see here. You know what? I'm forgetting something here. And actually, this is, I knew I was forgetting something. This module here, I usually have these files already configured for me, so I don't write this stuff from scratch. At first, when you first start out, it's very good to write it from scratch. But if you don't write it often, okay, you can forget. So we first have an object here, and then we have an array of objects. In this case, we're going to have one object here. Okay, so we have this module object first. Okay, I think now we're good. So we're going to have this regular expression here. And okay, we're escaping this. Okay, .js. We got the dollar symbol. We're good to go. We go to the next one. We exclude it. No modules. Perfect. Now let's get the loader. And for this occasion, we're going to use Babel loader. Remember that we have other loaders, okay? We can use SAS loaders. We can use style loaders, images loader, right? In that case, we will use a URL loader. And as a matter of fact, let's go here. And the last thing that we need to do here is for this to make it work is that we need a preset. Now, this preset is going to say ES200 2015. Don't get it confused. This is for ES6. Okay, but that's the preset. Now, okay, we need to download a couple things to make this work. We need to download Babel and we need to download the ES 2015. So let's do this. npm install, and then we can just say, well, I want to save this. This is all going to be for development. Okay, so Babel core. What else there is? There was a Babel loader and Babel. So sometimes I feel weird calling this Babel. It should be Babel, I think. I don't know. It's up to you. Yes, 2015. All right, enter. And let's see this baby working. Okay. There we go. All right. So now let's go to bundle.js and let's see what happened. Okay. We should have seen this change into a var variable, but we haven't run Webpack yet. I think we have to run Webpack again for that change to happen. Let's run Webpack now. Webpack. Now it was bundle, and now you can see that it changed into a var. Okay, and the reason why that is doing that is because it's changing our code to a ES5 code. Remember that? Okay, and that's in the presets right here. Changing that. Well, this is the ES6, but it's changing that to ES5 code. Pretty cool, right? Okay, now I know you don't want to be running this all the time, so you could watch for changes like this, Webpack, and you can say -- watch. And now this is going to be watching. You see this little cursor flicking there? Okay, now you should open a new window. Okay, that's going to be watching for changes. For example, if I go to my scripts here and I say Edwin Dia is your best teacher, for example, and I misspelled this. I should be spelling it correctly. And well, WebStorm is gonna save it for me automatically. So if I go to bundle, this should be changed in a minute. Okay, because it's supposed to be watching for changes. There we go. See that? Edwin Dia is your best teacher. All right, that's it for that. So any code that we write into our scripts.js not only is going to be bundled, but it's also going to be changed into a ES5 code that is going to work with the majority of browsers. Okay, and keep this in mind that this is probably going to be a different code in the future as time changes and as code changes. So it's probably not going to be ES6. It's probably going to be 2006 or 2017 or 2030 in the future to an earlier code that works with all browsers. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I see you on the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear student. So there is a new keyword in JavaScript called let. Basically, a keyword that we use to declare variables. Now, the reason why this came to be is because we have a huge problem in JavaScript, or we had, right? Well, you see, our global scope can actually be affected by our local scope. And when I mean scope, I mean the position of your code, okay? You can have a variable outside of a function or outside of an if statement. And inside the if statement, you can actually affect that variable, that global variable. And that is a problem because that can make your whole application fail. Let me show you a quick example here how the new keyword called let will protect our code and will allow us to write more effective applications. So let's actually go ahead and do a save as on index.html. And I'm going to show you a quick example. I mean, there are tons of uses for it, but they are very specific to what you want to do, okay? But I want you to see the difference. So let's say, for example, we have a variable here called x that has a value of 5, and we have an if statement here, and we're going to say, well, if this x variable exists, I want you to assign a new value to it. And I hope that you can see the problem here already. So what do you think is going to happen here? Are we going to get x? We're going to get 20 on the console, or we're going to get 5? Let's actually look at it and let's see what happens. So we get 20, as you already knew, right? So we reassigned a different value to x, and so we assign a new value to it, and we did not know we have another variable called x, right? I mean, we have an application that has 2,000 lines, and we just used we didn't think we were using that variable name, and we did. And that broke our whole application. Now, they came out with this new keyword called let, right? That says, no. This variable here is protected. It's going to only work inside a block of code. So now if I refresh here, you can see that I only get 5. So our global scope is safe. Our local scope is safe. Now, if you try to use the keyword let out here, I want to warn you, if I refresh, we get, you see that? 5 again. Let's refresh again. You can see the word 5. Now, if I use var here, we get this problem, duplicate declaration, but that's okay. Okay. So I hope you understand how this works. As a matter of fact, you know what? I feel like giving you a little bit more example inside of a for loop. Let me just, you know what? Let's just change this back so you have it for reference. And I'm going to comment this out. And I'm going to write a little piece of code here. Let me see if I can. We're going to come out. If you want to skip this, you can. But I suggest you watch it because we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So let's say we have an article, and we're going to create that in a minute. And inside the article, we have some type of div. We're going to write some code here, give it a background, maybe some height. We'll create this with JavaScript, by the way. Maybe some width, of course. If not, we won't see it, right? Some margin, pixels. What else we need here? Let's flow this to the left, and we want to click on it. So let's make this pointer. I think that's about it. That's all we need there. Okay, so let's come here and let's start creating this. Let's create a for loop. Guys, if you're a little lost on what I'm doing here, I suggest for you to go back to my beginner's course for JavaScript, and I got level 1, level 2, and level 3 of JavaScript. Okay, they're good levels to start with JavaScript if you get a little lost here. So let's create a variable here, I, and let's assign a value to it. Just a regular loop. As a matter of fact, I think my IDE has a short. No, it doesn't have a shortcut here for writing the loop. So we're going to have to do this from scratch. So let's say I equals to 0, and then I, and we're going to run this. Let's run it 10 times. And now let's increment this. Simple as that. Let's create a bot here. So this is going to be our div. Let's create it right now. Okay. Now let's do something here. Document. And we actually don't have an article, so let's make sure we have an article here. Make things easier. And we're going to get elements by tag name. That should work. Actually, it's not that. Is this article? Let's grab the 0 one, and let's append our div or our bots, since we have a variable name for it. So now this should work okay. Let's see if it is working, right? There we go. We got 10 boxes. Okay. Let's open our console here, because what I want to do is I want to show you what happens now when this is working the way it is. So we got 10 boxes that we created here. Let's go back here, and let's say, for example, when I click on these boxes, let's just put an on click here. Let's assign some functionality. Let's say hey, on number, there we go. So what do you think is going to happen here? Let's refresh this, and when I click on this one, hey, I'm number 10. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why am I number 10? This is obviously number 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh Jesus, look at that. They're all 10. What's happening here is that this variable, var variable, is getting overwritten, okay? All the time. So if we change that to this let variable, and we refresh, of course, we click here, there we go, 0. We click here, that's 9. Actually, that was 9 there, not 10, but so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see that? So these are one of the issues that the let keyword allows us to solve in JavaScript. Okay, you can control the flow of data in a block. Okay, so that way you don't affect whatever is outside and your code stays here working perfectly. And as you can see here in this case, we are not, we are, and this is a big bug. This was a big bug. This, I mean, there are workarounds, you know, with this. I mean, you can go ahead and use the keyword this and play around with it, but this is the best solution. You just change the declaration here and you're all set. Okay, but there are a couple other ways of solving this, and we use a lot of hack into solving this before, but this way is easy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So on this lecture, we're going to be learning about the new keyword called const in this ES6 version of JavaScript, right? So let's get to it. So const is just a name for constants. And if you're taking any other programming language before, you know that constants are basically declarations for variables that cannot be reassigned. Basically, they're saying, okay, you see this variable right here, this is just going to have one value and that's it. You cannot come here and change it later on. That's basically what it is. I'm going to give you a couple examples, but you should get the idea already. But it's always good to show you exactly how it works, because even though you cannot change, you can now reassign the value, you can kind of modify or add to it. Okay, let me show you what I mean. So let's call this const. Basically, I was doing a save as on index.html, guys. Okay, and let me just take that off. We don't need that. And I think I did a save as on the let.html by mistake. Okay, so let's start right away. So const, and I'm going to come here and we are going to be declaring a variable with a value of Honda and with a keyword of const, of course. So this is just a variable, okay? But what happens if I try to give this variable a different value? So now console, my ID is already crying, saying, hey, what are you doing? Okay, so if I pull my mouse over my ID here, it says attempt to assign to const variable. You see that? My ID is already letting me know, hey, you can't do that. But I'm not listening to it, and I just want to show you. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what happens. You see, it says is read only. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, simple. Let me give you another example. Let's just do I'm gonna comment that out real quick. And this time I'm going to use this declaration to create an array or a list, right? And let's just say, well, Honda and what is it? Let's just say BMW. I'm not comparing Honda to BMW, but they're good cars. Okay, so let's say I want to put something on and as a matter of fact, let's do a console real quick. Console. Let's see what we get, right? Cars. And if I refresh here, I see that we get an array with two values. Okay, cool. Let's say I want to modify this. So I'm going to push something to that array. That something would be another car, which is a really expensive car. And let's see what happens. Well, right now you don't see anything here. You see the same values, and that's because I don't have another console. Let's do that real quick. Let's just leave it like that. Oops. And as you can see, we were able to add to it. You see what I mean when modifying? What I mean by modifying. So you can create an array and you can add whatever you want to it. You can just come here and try to change the overall stuff, right? So let's come here and let's comment that out. Let me show you another example real quick. Let's just use this to create, I don't know, an object maybe. And let's just say this object has a brand. And if you don't know what I'm doing right now with objects, look up my other courses, okay? Level 1, level 2, and level 3 of JavaScript. You should learn about objects. Always, we have objects in most programming languages. So that's something that you should know if you don't know, okay? So we have this object, and let's go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to assign, let's just first console this out so you can see. Okay, let's come back here. And as you can see, we have this object, Brian BMW. See that? Let's come back and let's just say that I want that brand to be something else. So let's grab the car and brand. Let's assign something else to it. And as a matter of fact, I think you can leave out all this stuff, even those semicolons with Babel. There we go. See that? Brand is Ferrari now. So we are able to actually change the value, okay, of this object, some values of this object. Okay. So there you have it. It's not, I don't recommend leaving out the semicolons. I always recommend putting it on, even though we are in an environment that we can leave it off. All right, so I think you should be comfortable now with knowing what a const is. And I'll see you in the next lecture. Keep it up, guys. Don't fall asleep on me. Keep going. You need this. See you in the next one. Welcome back, my dear students. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope you are very animated. I hope you are very enthusiastic about the lecture today, okay? Because you're going to be learning something super cool, which is template literals. Now, before, in prior editions of the ES 2015 specification, they were called template strings, okay? Now they're called template literals. And basically, template literals allow us to embed expressions in there. Okay, so let me just show you the syntax real quick, and let me show you a couple of examples. So let's get to it. Let's do a save as on this file. Let's see, let might be a little simpler. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Let's just do a save as here, and let's call this template literals. Okay. You don't need to actually know this by heart. Just know that that's what they're called. There's nothing to it. As a matter of fact, let's create a variable here, and we're gonna be using the declaration keyword let. Okay, get used to it. It's super useful to use. Okay, and so this is how we usually declare, usually enclose a string. Usually, get this value here with double quotes or single quotes, right? Well, with template strings, what we can do is, what we have to do is use backticks. And these backticks are the ones located close to the escape keyboard. Well, I'm using a Mac, and it should be very similar in a Windows keyboard. But it should be around number 1 or the escape little key in your keyboard, okay? And let's, sorry for my English. Sometimes I might say things that mean something else just because English is not my first language, okay? So forgive me with that, but hopefully you'll get my point when I make my English mistakes, okay? Okay, so here, all we have to do is write whatever we want. We can say hello, and let's just say this. Let's just use this real quick, and you can see. So let's do console here real quick. And what I'm gonna cancel is message first, because I want to show you something real quick. And let me go and see if I have my browser somewhere here. And it looks like, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. So it says hello dear. As you can see, it's basically the same thing, but let me show you the power of it. Now I'm going to go to the second line, and I'm going to put some spaces like this there. Now let's go back and see how that looks. And as you can see, look what happened. We are preserving the spaces. Okay. And you might be thinking, okay, Edwin, that's not a big deal. That's not like very useful. Well, actually it is, because not only can we do this, but we can say, well, we can use a placeholder with a dollar symbol, curly brackets, put the name there or the variable, right? Come back here and watch this. Look at that. Pretty cool stuff, right? Let's actually do this on a different message. So I'm gonna do this for the second line here, so that way I can give you these files and you can keep them, but I would like you to write them anyway. So and remember, a dollar symbol here, curly brackets, and then the name of the variable, as you can see. Okay, so that should be that. Now let me show you how to actually do something a little cooler than that. Let's work with numbers. Let's actually comment this out, and let's work with numbers so you can see what we can do with numbers. So let's define some numbers here. Let's define number 1, and that would be 10. Let's define number 2. That would be number 20. I want to align this. Sorry, but sometimes I get a little picky on certain things. Okay, so let's do results here, and let's use backticks. And I'm gonna say, well, the grocery total was, watch this, I'm gonna be using number 1 here plus, and this is an expression, number 2. Simple as that. Now let's log this out. Console results. Let's go and check this out real quick. And as you can see, the grocery total was 30. You see? Now, if you do something like this though, and you enclose each of these in that, then you get just a string. Okay, you don't get the expression total in numbers. So I'm gonna take that out. Oops. And that. Now, if you want to show the dollar symbol, you just put another dollar symbol there. And now when you do here, you can see there that says the grocery total was. Okay. See that? With a dollar symbol, which is pretty cool. Okay. Let me show you one last example here. Okay. Let's say, for example, you have some type of function here, and we're just going to do it like this. You can do the function however you want. And let's just return some type of title here. I don't know, Edwin Diaz, my name, of course, your instructor that cares about you, believe it or not. And I don't even know you. Let's do some text here. Okay. Let's design or create an anchor. And let's close it here. And let's use a placeholder. But look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to invoke the function from here. See that? And as you can see, I have no errors in my IDE. My IDE is not even complaining about it. Some IDEs might complain about this. This is a very new syntax. So just know that some IDEs will, or some editors. Let's do this and watch what's going to happen here. Look at that. So from inside this template literal, we were able to invoke that function and display the return result. Pretty cool, right? Well, that's it for that. I mean, I think I gave you enough examples for you guys to figure this out, to know how this works. And it was my pleasure to do this lecture, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Keep active, keep motivated, because sometimes we get a little bored and we don't finish a course. And any lecture might do you very good in your application, in your skill set. So don't skip. Keep it going. See you in the next lecture. Okay, my dear students, on this lecture, we're going to be learning about another really cool feature of the ES6, which is the spread operator. This is going to be awesome. And it's a super simple thing too. The syntax is only 3 dots. That's right, 3 dots. So let's go ahead and right here on index.html, let's just do a save as here. Let's just call this guy spread operator. Simple as that. See how simple that was? Okay, so you might be asking yourself, okay, Edwin, you know, you're acting a little crazy. What's going on? Why are you telling me it's only 3 dots? What does that really mean? Well, let me actually show you in a real example, because I'm a really practical guy and I like to show practicality over theory. But first, let's do this. Okay, let's just create, and I think we're going to do a lot more writing of code than actually the feature itself. The feature itself is only 3 dots. So we got to write a lot more code. Well, no, actually, not really. Let's just say we have an array here. Okay, and the reason why I'm writing code is because I like to write it from scratch, and I like to practice since I know a couple languages. But if you had data already, you can use that. Let's have another one here. Let's have some kids array, and let's just call this guy Johnny. Hopefully I'm spelling it correctly. This guy's name is Pablito. Okay, and Spanish, so there are some really funny Spanish names. And this guy or this lady is gonna be Marianita. All right, I don't know if that's a name, but it sounds good. All right, so let's make a people array to put these 2 arrays together. And how we can do that? Well, let's see. With the spread operator, it's going to be super simple. But before we do that, let's actually console log one array. Let's console log the kids array, and let's see how that looks. Okay, so let's see right here. And oh, all right, Edwin, these things are not going to write itself for you. Okay, as you can see, when we print out an array or we do it, throw it in the console, we print out the whole thing, right? We print out the whole array. It's not like it's printing out the strings itself. It's printing out the whole syntax, the square brackets with the name, right? And then we can see it like this. Okay, that's not very useful. But if I go ahead and do something like this, 1, 2, and 3, look at that. You heard me, right? And you saw it. Now I can come here and say, voila. Now we print out the literals there. You look at that. Now we can do things with it, right? Super simple. I mean, that's just a demonstration. But look what we can do here. We can say, okay, we got another array. And when this guy's name is Juan, let's just put an American name here, or Williams from UK or something. And here, what we can do is we can say, well, I want to add the kids array, and I want to add the adults array, and I want to console everything out here. Watch this. This is what I love about those 3 little dots. Refresh, and voila, look at that. Doesn't that look nice? Really cool stuff, right? Instead of, now, if I didn't add those dots to it, what do we have? Watch this. That's not gonna look too pretty. You see now? Now we have the literals here, and now we have arrays, 2 arrays there, but it doesn't actually show you the values. Well, let's do this. Okay, and now watch this. People, the 3 dots. Let's go back here and refresh, and look how powerful that is. Okay, enough of that. Enough for having fun with that. Let's have a little bit more fun with something else. Let me show you another example. Let's say let's create a function of some sort. and a function with parameters. Let's say, because this is super useful with parameters, by the way. Sometimes we need to put arrays inside the parameters, right? So let's say we are using a function to send some data, console.log. This is just going to print data sent. And we can say username here, email, and password. Some data right there. Now let's do something. Let's call that function, and let's see what it does. Send data, and now let's pass some parameters here. Rico cannot be out of my tutorials, and of course is in my website, Rico at codingfaculty.com. Of course, that's not a real email, guys, so don't try to email Rico. He's not going to answer back. You can try Edwin at Coding Faculty, and maybe he will. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out real quick. So we see that this function just prints out some data. Okay, that's cool. And you might be asking yourself, so what in the world does it have to do with me? Well, watch this. If I grab all that data, grab here, instead of doing that, I create some data, create an array, and I pass some data here. What do you think is going to happen? We have this problem, right? You see? But if we grab some data and we go like this, okay? And we're missing a parameter here. Watch this. Let's go here, refresh. And as you can see, data sent, Rico swap, and then you see that? You see what I mean? So look at that. We were able to grab that array and just place it in this parentheses here and transfer all that and convert it into literals there, right? Which is really cool. Now there is a method here in JavaScript called apply that can help us with that as well. And we can just get the first parameter node and pass it some data. But this is just a little bit more, you know, it's not as easy as a spread operator, which make things a lot better for us. Okay, as you can see there. All right, so we're having a lot of fun. Let's actually do one more last example here. Okay, just because I like examples, and I think you should see a couple different examples of the same thing, so that way you can see how it works. But anyway, so let's say I have an array here. Oops, an array of objects, and I'm gonna create two different objects. Well, they're gonna have the same properties, different values. So let's say a car has two doors, and the name of the car is Honda as the brand of the car. Let's give another object here. This one has four, and let's just say it's a porch. Porch usually have two doors, but let's say he has four in this case. And let's create another array of objects, and this is just going to be new cars. Let's change the brands. Let's call this one I don't know, maybe a Toyota, and this one a Mercedes. Okay. Now, usually what we do with these things, right, is if we want to put information inside here, what we do is we say, well, cars dot push, right? We push one into the other. So let's say car push. We're gonna push these new cars into this one, and I want to show you what happens. Then we say console.log. Let's check it out real quick. As you can see, it gives us this array with 1, 2 objects and 2 arrays, which it doesn't look pretty cool. So what we can do is we can say, well, you know what? I want to push all of them like this. I'm gonna take this guy out of there. Organize this a little bit. And now, if I refresh, voila. Object, object, array 2, and object, object. Of course, that is because we're pushing these cars here, and we should be having a different one here so you can see the difference, even though you probably already know the difference. There we go. Okay. Let's take a look. Refresh. We can see the first one and the second one here. Pretty cool stuff, right? More useful this way because this is what happened. Look, in this one here, we got 2 objects, and of course, you know, we have the 2 consoles there, but we have 2 objects, and then when we are pushing the other ones, we have them right here. That's with the spread operator. But what happened is that if we push it without it, that's when the issue comes up, right? So that way you can see it better. And let's just, you know what, let's console cars like this as well, so you can see it in a better format. Look at that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. More useful this way. So anyway, so that's, I don't think I have any more examples. I think this should be it. It should give you a pretty good idea on how this works. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye. Welcome to this lecture. On this lecture, we are going to be learning about functions, default parameters, or default parameters for function. This is a new feature introduced in ES6. Let's take a look. I already created a file here. It's called default underscore function underscore parameters, just to save us a little time. So let's write a function. This function's name is going to be cars. And of course, we are going to be passing some parameters to this function. So we create those variables there. Let's just make sure they are different. So the ID doesn't cry, doesn't complain about it. So the issue with not having a default parameter is that when you are trying to invoke the function, for example, this one, and the user does not, let's say you're creating a user interface and the user does not put any value into that, then you would print out or you would do nothing, right? You need a backup for that. Most times you want to create some type of hack that would do that in JavaScript. But with this new feature, all you do is use default parameters. So right now we see undefined, but if we go ahead and include some of these features, some parameters. We can make car 1 BMW and car 2 Mercedes. And now if we refresh, we see those values. Simple as that. Now if we come here and we want some values, or the user types in some values, and this way we come back here and we refresh, those old values are going to be overwritten by the new ones. And that's all for the 4 parameters. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. I hope you guys are having a really awesome time, and I hope you're enjoying the course, really. So, in this new version of JavaScript, or these new features that came out, we have arrow functions. And arrow functions are just great because they help us bring more simplicity into our code. And it helps us shorten our code. So let's actually take a look at it, all right? So let's do a save as on index, and I'm just gonna call this arrow functions. Simple as that. There we go. Okay, so of course in JavaScript we can define a function just like this, and we can just say, I don't know, calculate something, and we can say, well, this is gonna be number 1. If we can spell it right, that would be nice. And number 2. Okay, and let's just return those. And let's just say number 1 time or plus number 2. Simple as that. And now here we just call the function, right? And we pass in the 2 parameters, 23 and 34. Where did I get that from? Don't ask me. I just came out of my head. Okay. Okay, let's come back here. And I never did a save that, did I? Yes, I did. Look, when you start asking yourself questions and answering them, that's kind of dangerous. That means that you've been coding too much. But anyway, so let's take a look at this. And again, I am typing this there. Okay, let's go here. Let's refresh it. And number 1, number 2, and that should be working according to my plan. It should be returning something. Okay, let's actually come here and let's just console.log. That's what I forgot. Oops. I forgot to print it out. There we go. Now we got 57, of course. So now we have another way of doing this. This way would be to take this from here and put it back here. And just say cow. There we go. And now we can do that here. Would be the same thing, right? Okay. Now with arrow functions, this is super cool. What we can do something like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the name of the function out. Okay. I'm going to take the curly brackets out, and I'm going to use this equal symbol with the greater than symbol. You see this little arrow here? Okay, don't get it confused with assignment operators, with anything else. It's just, we are actually saying, okay, grab whatever we got here, and I want you to execute this code here. So now I can just take this out of here and bring it here like this. As simple as that. Now if we go back, refresh, and voila. See how simple that is? And you can even take this off since we are doing this like that, and it still works. Of course, we don't have any more code after it, but see that? So that's a lot more simpler than what it was before, right? And you're gonna start seeing this type of syntax, especially when you get into frameworks. Okay, a lot of ES6 code, a lot, and it just simplifies everything. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and keep awake. If you're not really, if you're falling asleep, make sure you take a little rest, or remember why you're doing this. Sometimes that wakes you up. Okay. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. I hope you're really excited. Today we're going to be learning about shorthand properties. And when I say properties, I mean object properties. So let's get to it. Let's see how we can grab what we learned on the last lecture about arrow functions and make it better on this one with properties. So I'm going to just do a save as here. I'm going to call this shorthand properties. Simple as that. So first, before we improve anything, before I show you the differences between doing it the old way and the new way, we have to code it, right? We have to actually see something. So let's build some old code and see how we used to do it back in the days, right? With the ES5, and that's not too far away from my time, but it might be too far away from yours. But it's good to know. So this still works, by the way. It's just that this was the old way of doing things. So we usually have an object. We have a function, and this function is usually doing something here. And let's say Edwin is running. And this is a method, by the way, because it's inside. Okay. Edwin runs. We have the function. Curly brackets is there. And of course, I'm missing something wrong here. I'm misspelling this. That's what I was missing. There we go. I love my IDE. It helps me out. Okay. Okay. Then we usually come down here and we say, well, I want to actually invoke the runs, and then we open it up with any browser. Let's see how that looks, and we can see that we have in the console what we are executing, right? That's pretty cool. Okay, so that was the old way of doing things. And you can still use this if you want, and you'll see the difference, and you'll choose, from this to what I'm gonna show you. Okay, whatever new ES features we have, you choose what you want to do. Okay, then we can also build a empty. We can also have an empty object, and then apply properties to it. For example, I can say person.name equals Edwin, and then we can also apply the function here. As simple as that. And then we can have basically the same as this here, and this will work in the same way. As a matter of fact, if we see it in the browser, check it out, and let's go back here. Went a little bit ahead of myself. Person runs. There we go. Now it should work. Make sure that you put your semicolon there, and voila. Okay, so that's working, right? That's one way of doing it. Now what we can do here, and I'll use this one, that's fine. I'm gonna comment this out, and I'm gonna copy it, and we can start improving this by removing the function keyword like we did in the last lecture. And now we use an arrow function here. I mean an arrow there, you see it. And now this will work the same way, right? I mean, there's nothing, we didn't do anything too big there. But what we can do is, instead of having this like this, okay, we can come here and we can grab, see if we can show you a better example. That's var name there, and var runs. Okay, and now if I do this and I do this here, okay, we should have the same thing. as well. Let's check it out. Let's see if that works. And as you can see, that's working as well. Let's go back here and let's see what's going on. So we have a variable with the value of Edwin, and we have another variable with this arrow function here. And what we're doing here is in this object, we are actually using the name of that variable, we're passing it in, and the runs variable, and it's grabbing not only the value here, but the functionality here, and it's applying it to this object. And then we are using it right here, which is pretty damn cool, right? Let's do one more last thing that, and then we should and then we should cut it off. I think after this, you should be very well trained in this functionality. Let's do something a little bit different here. What else we can do with this? Well, instead of having, you know what? Let's do something really new from scratch. How about that? Let's just remove all this. Okay, that way I can give you a better example. And let's just have a person object here. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass the name. Okay, remember we're taking that. And then instead of having all those arrow functions and stuff like that with curly brackets, I'm just gonna write the function without anything there, without the arrows or the keyword. As simple as that. And now this should work exactly the same. Okay, and now all we have to do is call it down here. Let's just use this real quick. Let's stop being lazy, right? Let's see if my ID is complaining a little bit here. Let's do the semicolon and we should be good. Let's see how this works. Let's check it out in the browser. And voila. You see? So in this object here, not only can you have that, but you can also have more functions. Walking. Okay, and you don't have to write the keyword name function or even the arrows anymore. And you can just have it like that. Walking. And you can assign multiple values here as well. Okay, of course, make sure you have some type of value if you want to display values here, right? DS last name. There we go. Simple as that. And that's complaining because he just likes camel case. My ID is picky. And he's complaining about my last name. He shouldn't be complaining about my last name. We should add it to the vocabulary here somewhere. I'm not going to do that right now. But anyway, so Edwin runs. Edwin walks. Let's do that. And let's see Edwin walking. Okay. And let's refresh. And as you can see, Edwin is walking. So this looks a lot cleaner. And when you see this type of syntax out there in some frameworks, don't be scared. Just know that this is a new feature from ES6. This is nothing else but JavaScript, a new version of JavaScript features for you. Thank you so much for watching. I think I was able to give you some really cool examples on this lecture. I hope you had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun teaching it, and I'll see you on the next lecture. Wake up. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's finish this course. Welcome back, my dear students. On this lecture, we're going to be learning about how we can deal better with the keyword this. Now, in prior versions to ES6 and ES5 and so on, we had to actually come up with a little hack into dealing with the keyword this. And I'll show you right now what I mean, okay? But in this new feature, with these new features now that we have with the arrow functions and just the shorthand properties, object properties, we can actually use the keyword this like it was meant to be without complications. So let me just show you real quick what I mean with the keyword this. So first of all, I'm going to do a save as on this document. Let's just close all this here because it could be a little bit confusing sometimes having all these windows like that. And let's just call this. Okay, as simple as that. Easy name. Okay, so let's go ahead and construct an object. Let's see if we can get one from the shorthand property here. You know what? Let's just build one. So what? Let's write a little bit. Why not, right? Okay, so let's say we have an object of person, and the name is, of course, Edwin. And let's say this object has, I don't know, some array, an array of moves. Let's say we're building a character, okay? And this character is going to be running, is going to be fighting, is going to be flying, okay? Now let's actually make sure he does that by creating a action, okay? And so we're going to say this moves. Okay, so we are going to be referring to this guy here. That's why we're using the keyword this. Moves, and we're going to attach a for each. Okay, and we're going to actually rotate or traverse or basically go to each of these. Okay, we're going to loop through that. And this is going to have a function. Let's just call back here, and we're going to pull that item out like this. Okay, simple as that. Let's just do this real quick. And this is an object. So here, let's build a string variable, and let's just say, well, this is the problem here. Okay, I'm going to show you right now. My ID is going to cry about this probably. And we're going to say this. Let's say Edwin is going to is, and then we are going to append that in there. And we're going to say towards enemy. Basically, we're going to say this Edwin is running towards the enemy or something like that. That's what this is going to say. Okay, but it's going to say a couple different things because we have an array here. So Edwin is running, Edwin is fighting, Edwin is flying towards the enemy. Okay, as simple as that. That's what we want to display. Of course, one last thing here, we want to see what's going on. So let's console.log this string here so we can see what's going on. Okay. So let's just put a semicolon here and let's stop playing around, right? Let's invoke this and let's just say displays moves, and let's see if we haven't made any mistakes. Okay. Oh, let's play this in the browser. Let's see if that browser is ready for us. Okay, so property name of undefined. Okay, so what's happening here is that this keyword here has fallen out of scope, while this refers to this here, this array. This one is trying to access this one here, and it's not able to. So what we need to do is we need to play a little bit, trying to hack into this, basically do a little hack. That's what we do. Okay, so before this keyword this, what we can do is we can create another variable, and let's call this, I don't know, this, all capital like this if we want to, and apply the keyword this. And now if we want to access that, we can come here and we can say, well, this dot name, as simple as that. So now if we come back to this, let's see, let's refresh it. Well, it's working, but of course I have my famous keyword there that I keep pressing. And if we refresh it, you see that now it's working. So that's a little hack that we do. Now let me show you another way of doing this, and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to comment that out because I'm going to basically be doing the same thing, but I want you to have that as a reference. Instead of doing this, I'm going to leave this way, and I'm going to take that off. We can use the bind function or method here to bind the keyword this to this for each. Okay, now make sure that if you were doing Babel, turn it back to JavaScript. If not, it's going to give you some type of error. And let's just refresh, and you can see now that it works the same. Now let's take it back to Babel, and I believe Babel helps out with some type of error. Let's see if it works anyway. Oh, it's working anyway. I think in Firefox it gives some type of indication that it's not working. But anyway, let me open up Firefox and let me prove my point, because I believe at one point I was having some type of issue here with this console here. So Firefox, we're developer in the web console. Oh, it's running. My bad. It still works the same. I thought Babel was interfering with it, but it's not. It has nothing to do with it. Sorry, that was probably another course. But anyway, let me show you another way of doing this, and the way that I prefer the most with the ES6 features. Okay, let's do this. So we know that we don't need this function here. Okay, we can just run that like this. We don't even need this keyword here, and we don't even, since we don't have more parameters here, we can just do this. Oops, what am I doing there? Like this, and we don't even need this parenthesis here. We don't need this guy here as well. And I think that's it. And that's all we need to do for this to work. So basically, by removing a couple things and just adding this, it fixes everything. Let's try this and let's see how it works. I don't have anything else on top working, so if this works, it's just because it's working the right way with ES6 features. And as you can see, it's working right out of the box. Beautiful. Okay, so there you have it. We have it working with less code and in a better way, in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you keep going at this, you're gonna keep learning a whole bunch. If this seems a little bit confusing, don't worry. Just practice, practice, practice. The more you do it, the more familiar you're gonna be with it. If you feel like this is really hard for you, I recommend going back to my first courses on JavaScript for beginners, level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay, get those courses if you want to learn JavaScript the right way. I keep building on my courses, so I always have different levels. That way it gives you more knowledge, and it just makes you more familiar with JavaScript. We're going to be jumping into better courses, not just better courses, but more advanced courses as we keep going up in levels. Okay, so I'm just showing you the different EcmaScript here. I'm going to show you some more JavaScript features in other courses. I'm also going to jump you into frameworks and different libraries. We're going to have a lot of fun with JavaScript, okay? So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you need any other type of courses, look me up in my profile. I might have the course. I always try to put something useful for you guys out there. And check out our Facebook groups for each of my courses, okay? Look in the announcement tab. If you don't find anything there, make a comment and I will post the link. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear students. Hope you guys are having a really good morning, night, whatever time it is, or afternoon. Right here where I am is morning time and super, super early. So if I'm not in the best of energy levels, forgive me. I'm trying my best. But anyway, so guys, let's start with the structuring assignment. Now, what is the structuring assignment? Well, the structuring assignment is a feature that allows us to extract data from arrays and objects, okay? And at the same time, when we are extracting it, assign them to variables. So this is a pretty cool feature. I'll show you right now. You might be thinking, okay, when can I use this? Well, I'm going to show you. So we have a way of extracting data right now that this way, right? We can create an array, and let's say, well, we want BMW there, or we have this data that, let's say, for example, we want to extract. So we can extract this data right now and do something with it by using, and let's just give this variable a proper name, by using the index number, right? We can go ahead, we can do that. We know how to do that. Okay, but with the structuring, what we do is come back here. I'll show you what we do with the structuring. We come here, and instead of having that variable there, we use another square brackets, and we give the name of the variable that we want for that specific first item. So if I want BMW, I do BMW like this. Well, let's actually give this small name. Let's come back here, and if we refresh, we see that, hold on, that's another, that was another thing that I had there. Come back here, and we have the little famous F that I keep pressing. And you can see that we got BMW right there. Okay. So if we want to access the next item, we'll come up with that, and we'll replace it with that. As simple as that. There we go. You see that? Okay. Wow, I need my coffee, guys, and it's been a long time without drinking coffee, months. Okay. And the reason why I have replaced my coffee with like natural drinks is because coffee is not 100% good for you. Okay, just keep that in mind, guys. Anyway, so we can do this. Let's say, for example, we want to skip Mercedes and we want to access Ford. We don't want to access Mercedes right away. Let's say we have 100 different, or let's say 20 different items here. What can we do? How can we do that? Well, we use a comma to replace that. So this first comma is going to separate this variable with the next one. So we don't count this one, but this one we count. So this one right now is representing this spot right here. And then we use the name that we want for that specific variable. For example, 4. So now we come here and we refresh, we get 4 right here. See that? So if I have, let's say, another brand here, okay, let's say I want to access this guy here. So first, this variable and comma counts for the first one. Then this one for Mercedes, and then we have 4 here. Then for this comma is going to separate 4 with another variable, so that's not going to count. So this one for Honda, and then Ferrari. Let's see if I did it correctly. Play around with it a little bit if you don't understand it, if you can't figure it out, but just know that one comma doesn't count because it's being used to separate this variable with the next variable. Okay, you see that? So that's how you can extract data from different places by using these little commas there. So now this is with arrays. Let's try and do this with an object. Okay, so of course we have a regular object like this. And then we got, let's say, the name. Let's do a bio here, and let's just say okay. If we want to access some data from there, we just say person dot name, right? So that will work fine. But with the structuring, we can do this. Instead of having this here, we can do this. Not, you see, I got you there. You probably thought that we can do this, right? Well, with objects we use curly brackets. It just makes sense, right? And then we can just say name. And now we don't have to use the object here. We can just use that variable. Simple as that. Now come here and we can see my name there. Okay, simple. Now, of course, we can keep accessing the nets. Okay, and bio. Come back here and refresh, and you can see that we have the next one there. And it makes sense. Edwin is a programming instructor, right? Okay. let's see if we can do one more. That way you can get a better idea how this works. And we're gonna be doing it in a little different way. Okay, let's say we have this here. Let's just do, I'm gonna actually copy this down, comment it out, because I'm gonna show you another way of doing this. Okay, and let's just keep this normal. Okay, let's say we have this object here, and then let's say we have, let's use the let, and let's create some type of function here. Let's say display data, because I just can't come up with something out of my head that makes more sense or what we're gonna do. And then let's use the shorthand version now of the function. Instead of using function, we're gonna be using the new syntax. Okay, as simple as that. And let's just return something. Now, what do you think we're gonna put here in this parenthesis here? Well, let's actually use this function or this method to extract data from this object here. And the way we're gonna do that is by using curly brackets here. So we can say name and we can say bio, and that's what I want to extract. But we're not extracting it yet because we have to reference this object somewhere, right? Because we can just magically come to this object, magically from this function, create some variables, and magically access this object without referencing it, right? So let's use the new syntax here. Let's just do backticks here. Let's do that, and let's come back here. There we go. Okay, now here is where we're going to be referencing that object so we can extract that data. So we can say, well, we display the data and we reference that object. As simple as that. So I hope you see what's going on here. Okay, we got this object, okay, that we want data from. Now we use a method, okay, here. Now we save that method's data right here, of course, so we can use it, but we are referencing, we are creating some variables that we want to use here, okay, and we are returning some data. But here's what we do the extracting. We're passing in the reference of that object's name right here to our method, so it can create these variables, extract the data, parse that data, and return it here. You see that? So let's put a semicolon here. Let's come back. We don't have anything else on top. It should work flawlessly. Refresh, and you can see Edwin is a programming instructor. So this is what the structuring really is: extracting data from arrays and objects and assigning them to variables on the go, which is pretty cool. Thank you so much for watching this lecture. Hopefully I wasn't too sleepy, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Among the new features of JavaScript, the new versions, we have classes. Now, for those of you that know about classes, I don't have to explain it much, but for those of you that don't know what classes are, let me show you. And of course, on the last lecture, we did not have an index. we actually override our index. So on this lecture, I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna actually not overwrite. I'm gonna do a save as, and I'm gonna call this, actually I already have classes in there somewhere, so I'm gonna overwrite mine, but just create a file, that would say something like classes or something like that. And the last index, this guy right here, let's just make sure that this one is destructuring, okay? Because I don't think I did it in the last lecture, but I want you guys to have these files. Remember that you're gonna have these files in your exercise, okay? Lectures, exercise files or reference files, okay? So I'm just gonna leave index like this. You'll have the right index, by the way, okay? So don't worry too much about it. So let's go to classes real quick, and let's see how we can, let's find out first the format of a class, okay? I went blank there for a minute for some reason. I think I might need a little coffee, but you guys know that I don't drink coffee anymore, but I gotta get one of those really cool drinks to wake me up. But anyway, so how do we construct a class? Well, first we start with the keyword class. Simple as that. And then we give it whatever name we want. We always start with a capital, okay? Good practice to do this. Curly brackets, very similar to other programming languages. As a matter of fact, basically identical to the one in PHP. The only difference is that here we use a constructor, and then we create some variables here that we are going to be passing in later on when we instantiate this class. So we're gonna say, well, I want a property that's called name. So I'm gonna say this dot name equals the name coming in, and this dot title equals the one coming in, title. Simple as that. Now we got some properties available to us that we can use anytime we want. Let's build a method. So here, I would just write whatever I want or whatever code I need. And I'm gonna use ticks here because backticks, because that's just the new way of doing things, right? And some placeholders here. I'm gonna say this dot name, and we're gonna write is a great, and then this dot title. So we're gonna be passing those values in when we instantiate this class. Let me show you. So now we have a constructor here who's constructing our properties with values that are gonna come in when we instantiate this class. So right here is where we do that. So let's use a new declaration, the keyword let, and let's just say, well, this is going to be the object, and it's gonna come from this new person, this new class. Now, of course, before we do anything, we need to give it some parameters because that's what we're signifying right here, right? Name and the title. So let's give it a name and a title. The name, of course, is going to be your dear instructor, Edwin Diaz, and the title is going to be professor or something like that, or instructor or teacher, whatever you want to call it. Let's use the object or the variable, and let's just call our method from there. And since we are consoling, logging this, we don't have to do it here. So hopefully you see what this is. For those of you that don't know about class, remember that this is just a blueprint of your object. Remember that an object has properties and it has methods, data, and action with that data. Okay? So now let's go ahead and see this in the browser somewhere. And I think I have it in one of my other monitors. Let me just put it right here. Let's see it. And voila, Edwin is a great professor. That's just not my opinion, by the way. I'm very humble, guys. That was, I get that feedback from you guys. But anyway, thank you so much for watching these lectures. I hope that this was clear to you, for those of you that did not know, and for those of you that did not know classes at all, you got a little learning process here, okay? A little advanced. So make sure that if you don't know about objects or anything like this, go back to my other JavaScript courses, find out about objects, learn more JavaScript. If you need some type of refreshment, go ahead and do that. Okay, get some refresh information and come back to this class or more advanced classes in JavaScript. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear students. In this lecture, we're going to be learning about how we can grab the information, the data from another class and use it in another class, basically inheritance. Now, for those of you that know about classes, of course, this is not something new for you. It might be something new in JavaScript, but in other programming languages, this is old news, right? But JavaScript, we're super excited to introduce this because this is just going to make things a lot easier when we want to develop new functionalities based on other classes. So let me show you what this is all about. I'm going to do a save as on classes. I'm going to call this inheritance. Hopefully I'm spelling this correctly. Inheritance. Okay. So I'm going to comment this out real quick. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to take this out here as well. Let's say I want to inherit something from that class. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create my other class, right? And the other class could be called, I don't know, alien person or something like that, or alien. Okay, and this is just going to say extends from person. Okay, so this is the class, and now in here what we're going to do is we're going to need a constructor, but we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have to use this method called super, like this. Okay, see, my ID was already crying. It's like, what are you doing? You can't just build a constructor with anything there. You need something else. There we go. So in super is where we are going to be passing in our parameters, the parameters we need. Like we need a name and a title. So I'm gonna use Rico Suave, and the title is just a, I don't know, cool person. Okay. Excuse me. Now below here, I'm going to say alien, all lowercase. Of course, it's not an alien. It's just, you know. And you know what? Well, I'm gonna leave it like that. I was gonna just change the class name to student or something like that. But I was just watching this alien movie, which was really cool. But anyway, so this new class is called alien. So we're just gonna do that. And now what we need to do is we need to use the alien dot display data. Simple as that. Okay, so now let's see how this works, how this looks in the browser. Let's come back here, and Rico Suave is a great cool person. You see how that works? I know this might seem a little confusing, a little different from other programming languages as we have the constructor, but this extends, you get the point with it extends, right? So we can change this to student. Okay, if you want to make it sound a little bit more realistic. There we go. And let's just change this to student. All right. All right, that's it. There you have it. Class inheritance. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the comments and all the reviews and personal messages. I mean, you guys are great. Awesome. All right. I'm going to try to show you as much as I can about ES6 and all the programming languages out there. Look me up in my profile. Look me up in my website, edwindiaz.com, codingfaculty.com. We even have Facebook groups for each course. So if you're into Facebook, look me up there, or Twitter, or anyway. Thank you so much, And if I don't see you in the next lecture, for some reason, I'll see you in the next course. Thank you. Bye-bye. Welcome back, my dear students. So we're going to be starting to learn about promises on this lecture. Hopefully we can make it in one lecture. But before we do that, I want to explain to you about synchronous and asynchronous code, okay? Or those terms. I want you to understand those terms. If you don't understand it, I can almost guarantee that some of you are not going to know that term. But when something is synchronous, we need to go line by line and wait for the first one before we go to the next line to execute, or for something to happen. The first one needs to finish. And asynchronous is the opposite. We don't have to wait for the first one for the second line to be executed, or for the second thing to happen. So for example, let's just create a file here. I'm going to call this promises. Whatever you want, it's just, that's what we're going to be learning about, right? So let's say that we have, actually, let me just write this down real quick. And let me see if I can spell this. Synchronous. There we go. My IDE is kind of helping me. So let me show you a good example of synchronous code. And synchronous can be anything in real life too. But in coding, okay, we are talking about code, right? So one code, or one line, or one statement, or one function, whatever you want to call it, needs to go first, right? But let's say we are fetching something from the server. Right now, the way this is, okay, or from the network or from any website, the way this is that this line needs to finish before I can execute any other function, okay? So if I have a function that says hello, for example, I have to wait for this one to finish. That's synchronous code. And I could have another thing here. And I'm just writing whatever here, guys. It's just dummy code, right? So as you can see, we have to wait for this to finish to go to the next one, and so on and so on. But asynchronous code, okay, and I'm just gonna synchronous code. Gosh, there we go. So asynchronous code, we put an A right in front of it. If you don't see it there, let me know, and I'll zoom it in for you. All right, so now let me give you an example, and this is just an example, guys. So let's say we are making a query. We're using this object DB, and we have this method called query, whatever, that is going to select users. Okay. So the way this is now, this is just the same as that right here. But here's the difference. While we are submitting a query, we can have a function right here that is fetching the result from the database, right? So that function could be taking its time. Let's just write the result here. So right now we can, maybe that function takes 3 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever it takes. The difference is that we don't have to wait to execute something else. Okay. So we are making a query to the database. We are using this anonymous function to fetch the result, and we're doing something with that result. But while this is happening here, while this is working, we can go ahead and execute the next line of code. So that's why synchronous and asynchronous is. One, we have to wait line by line for the one before to finish. The other one, we do not. Simple as that. I could have just said that, right, guys? I just wanted to show you a quick example. All right, so let's just comment all that out, and let's go to promises real quick. All right, I'm just gonna do it here. So the first thing is we have to instantiate something, a new promise, and we have to assign that to a variable. So I'm gonna use the let, and just to get in the habit of doing it. So my promise Just as simple as that. As you can see, my ID is already telling me, and it's even telling me that it's EcmaScript 6, right? So we instantiate this, but inside of this, we have a function that has two parameters. The first parameter is going to be the success function that is going to be returned or that's going to be invoked. And the second parameter is going to be the ones that rejects, that gives you your error. Okay, remember these functions, these parameters are turning into a function and they're coming back when you use your promise. We have not used our promise yet. Okay, we're just setting everything up. Okay, so you can call the first parameter whatever you want, but you're always going to see this resolve or reject, but you can call it whatever you want. Okay, it's just they go in order. First parameter success, the other one the error. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring this down real quick. So I'm just going to give you an example here. I'm going to create this property. Excuse me. I'm going to call this property, I'm going to set it to false actually. And I'm going to check if this property is true or false. And depending on that, I'm going to execute our parameters there. There are functions. So this is going to say, hey, this is, you can, and basically this resolve your, depending on what happens here. I mean, you write your code up here, you set up some type of property, or you can even write it here, and then whatever you return in this resolve, it's what's going to get returned when we call this promise, and you're going to see that. So this is complete, and else if it's not complete, then we can use the reject. Okay, this is not complete. Let's see. Okay, so now let me show you how to actually use the promise. Okay, and I want you to digest this and write it down. I'm going to have these files for you, but just make sure if I don't have these files in this lecture, I'm going to have them in the reference files lectures in the beginning of the course. But I want you to write this down, get used to it, because I want you to practice on it. I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear student. So let's get going with our lectures about promises. So we got the promise set up here. Now it's time for us to start using this object, right? We have the blueprint. Let's use the object. So the first thing is that we are going to be using that variable, of course, up there. And then we are going to use a function called then. And then is going to return either the success, the resolve, or either the reject, depending on what happens inside the code. Okay, that's what the then method or function, whatever you want to call it, does. And it's actually then right here. Okay, so now inside here we can use the function. Now what I want to do is I want to use actually our ES6 arrow functions, and I could have done that here. I just did not want to confuse you because it takes a little bit to get used to it. So in the then here, we are going to bring the data back, or should I say the result. And let's bring it down. Basically, something good happened here, okay? And we can say I want to console the result. Okay. Now, if this is actually true or false right there, but for some reason this is not, the then returns the other, this one, then we need to actually call some type of other function here to bring that error. And I'm going to use arrow functions again. Okay. And I can come here and I can say log error. As simple as that. Now you can use a regular function keyword, or you can even use a catch method there to do the same thing we're doing here. Okay. So let's actually execute this and see it in the browser to see how it works. Okay, so let me bring that up. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out real quick. Let's go inside this folder, and actually, you know what? Let's use Node. Okay, I'm gonna use Node.js to execute this, and I'm gonna call this promises. Enter, and as you can see here, it says this is not complete. Okay, now if you want to see this, okay, in a regular file, all you have to do is, you know, right here on index, bring the script down, okay, and src, and it's called promises. There we go. Okay, and that should work. We just have to bring down our index here. Come back here, and as you can see, it says this is not complete. Now, if for some reason that fails, okay, I mean, it's true, okay, then this is going to say this is complete. Okay, now let me show you something here. So the cool thing about this is that, like I said before, our code doesn't have to wait, right? To stop the video a little bit. But anyway, so the cool thing is that we don't have to wait for our code to execute. Let's go ahead and bring one of these here and just put it right here. Okay, let's go ahead and use Node again. And as you can see, we were able to log Edwin Diaz before we even did the promise, and then we did the promise. Okay, so we're not waiting for anything. Pretty cool stuff, right? Well, in the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to chain them and do a couple more things. Thank you so much. Welcome back, my dear students. In this lecture, we are going to be learning how to chain promises. Okay, so let's get to it. So what I'm going to do is, as a matter of fact, I'm going to create another promises. I'm going to call this file promises2. Okay, and let's just delete this whole thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, I'm going to show you how to do this in a really cool way. So let's say, for example, we want to turn on our computer. Okay, so we're going to build a program that is actually going to turn on the computer, open the browser, search for something online, and return that result. Remember that this is just an example, guys. We're not doing that in this course. Okay, so so what I'm going to do here, as you can see, I'm assigning an anonymous function to this variable because I'm going to use it later on. But inside here, what I want to do is inside this function is I want to return a promise. Okay, so pay very close attention. You're going to learn something really cool here. Okay, so I'm going to use the arrow function. I'm going to pass in the resolved and the reject. Okay, come back here, and this is already telling me, oops, I forgot. We're using arrow functions. What am I doing? And forgot this little guy here. Okay, so I want to resolve something here. I'm gonna use that, and we're gonna say computer is on. Okay, don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch through all the writing. You can always forward the video, okay, but I'm gonna copy and paste this stuff, and this one is going to open browser. I was gonna pause the video and do it real quick, but It's not that bad. Actually, I did a little bit of actually we did that twice there. Come back here. So I pause the video and I try to save you a little bit of a couple seconds. Okay, so as you can see here, we have three functions. One, and on all those, we are returning a promise saying that we are going to be resolving something. Okay, the computer is going to be on this promise. We are also going to promise our computer that we're going to turn on, open the browser, and go to this page. Simple as that. So now, if we want to change this, all we got to do is say then, and then there we've passed the function. We're going to use arrow functions again. And here, of course, we have a result, right? And we can say, well, I want to return the other function, which is, I believe it was open browser. And that one, let's pass in the result on that. Okay. We can go ahead and keep chaining them together like this. And here we pass in the result as well. Come back here, and then we are going to be returning the next function. And the next function is go to this page, and this function is also going to have a result of some kind. Then lastly, I believe that's the last one. Lastly, I'm going to say, you know what? Forgetting this little guy here. Okay. We are going to say console.log, and we're just going to say we are done. Simple as that. Okay. And of course, we can pass in that if we wanted to. But let's actually execute this and let's see how it works. And actually, we got to execute promises too. Oops, we have some type of turn on computer. Oh, let me spell that there. There we go. Let's do it again. And as you can see, it says we are done. Now, I want to also see this function saying something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to append this message here, message variable, msg, like this. I'm going to do that for this function as well. Okay. Remember that when we call this function, let's say this one, go to this page right here, we are also getting that result. Okay. Remember that. Getting that result. Okay. So not only are we getting this message, but we are appending it right here. So when we execute this, and let me see right here. We're returning this little guy here. We're returning this one. We should be getting that message variable. I'm missing something. Oh, right here. Of course, we forgot this little guy that's in gray right here. And of course, make sure you do this. Now, let's actually execute this in the browser. And let's go back to index. Make sure we have that promise there. And let's come back here. And as you can see, it says we are done. Computer is on, browser is on. Go to edwindiaz.com. Welcome back, my dear students. On this lecture, I want to show you a couple more things about promises and their error handling. So let's create a new file and let's call this promises. Oops, I already got one. Promises 3. And I'm going to copy some stuff that I got from another file. I might have to edit a couple of this, but anyway, so we got one promise, well, one function with returning a promise, another function returning a promise, another function returning a promise, and then we are chaining these promises here, but then we are right after the promise or in between, well, before the promise is done, we are also handling, well, in reality, we are jumping before this code finishes and handling this error. Okay, then we go to the next one and handle that error, and so on. So if I execute this, you can see that it says first one failed. Let's go to the browser real quick, and you can see that the first one failed, the second one failed, I mean not failed, it's showing, and the third one showing. So basically we are not stopping just because we are getting an error here. Okay, and this error belongs to this here, this promise right here, right? Well, this method here is calling the result of whatever promise we're passing in right here. Well, right here, right? So we are returning this promise, and that then method is gonna actually be invoking one of these, and we are actually forcing it right now to invoke this one. So that's why that one is showing, but then we are also seeing the other one and the other one. So having this error here did not actually affect what we are calling after it. So basically we're saying here, go ahead and use this if you are able to fulfill it. If you're not able to fulfill this promise, handle it. Handle that error, and we are handling that error. Then continue. Handle the error, then continue. Now, if we wanted to actually just catch the error and not continue, we will have to use that catch function that we did before. Okay, so I will cancel that. I will cancel this. Okay, now if I try to execute this like this is going to give me an error because we are not handling an error. We have to handle it. A promise without an error is not a promise, right? But anyway, so the best way to do this would be to use the catch and bring it down. Okay, and now it's gonna look very similar, but look what happens. Oops. And as a matter of fact, we can see it in the browser. Let's see it in the browser. It looks better. First one failed. So why are we getting the first one failed? Is because we are rejecting that one. If we resolve that one and reject this one, I'm going to write something silly here. We get that error there. Okay, but we don't get anything else executed. We're not executing this one, of course not, but we're not executing that one, and so on and so on. Okay, so that's a really cool way of handling that error. Now, let me show you another thing here. As a matter of fact, I was going to show you in the new lecture, but I'm going to show it to you right now. there's a static method called all that you can pass in all those function, all those promises. Well, this function calls this functions, this variable that's holding everything. We can pass it in this static method here and as parameters like this. And basically, as you can see, this is an array. It takes an array and then it takes a second parameter here. Actually, we can chain it together, but chain it right here. This has a array there. Okay, so let's go and call this one and this one. As you can see, I got all of them separated by comma because they are all inside that static method all. Then here we can pass an anonymous function and say, you know what, this all these functions are done. Watch this. Okay, I don't want to catch the error because this is only going to take functions that are passing, right? So let's eliminate that real quick. Let's call that again. Let's clear this out real quick. Of course, let's take all this out here. What am I doing with that? To go up and resolve them. Okay, make sure they're passing or they're going. Now let's clear this and let's do it again. And voila. As you can see, we got done there and we can check it out here. So basically we were able to chain, basically not chain, but allow all these promises, okay, to be fulfilled. And when they were all of them were fulfilled, then we were able to actually do something. Basically, we can do whatever we want. We can either update some databases, we can let the user know, we can do whatever we want, make a HTTP request, anything you want basically, after all those promises are resolved. Okay, so this is just a little thing that I wanted to show you here for you to keep aware. There's a lot more stuff in the documentation, so make sure that if you want to learn more to look it up. You can also make a request of any other features that you guys like for me to include in this course, and I will try my best to include it. Anyway, I hope this was useful to you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture or course. Congratulations, my dear students. You did very good, even though this was a very short course and it's maybe a lot of things that you already knew, but you still finished it. Congratulations. Very good. Now, you might be asking yourself where you should go next. And I'm going to give you a path if you don't already have one, okay? So hear me out. So you finish this ES6 course. This is the first thing that you have to do in this path, right? Of course, if you did this ES6 because you already know JavaScript. So I'm not going to recommend my JavaScript courses, which I have like 3 of them with 3 different levels, 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to recommend TypeScript, the next step. If you already know TypeScript, and by the way, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript where, where we build, object-oriented JavaScript and it gets transpiled into JavaScript. This is what the Angular framework uses. So anybody going to Angular needs to know TypeScript. I got a very small course on that. Very good reviews. And I'm pretty sure it can help you if you don't know TypeScript. I also have an Angular course, and I recommend Angular after TypeScript, of course. Okay? And finally, Node.js for the backend with JavaScript. So all these 4 technologies that you see in front of you, I recommend in the JavaScript journey. Okay? Now, just because you are in this course, just because you took this course from me, I'm going to give you a discount right here for my amazing Node.js course. Why do I call it amazing? Because I invested a lot of time creating this course right here, and I created this big CMS project that takes you from not knowing anything in Node.js to actually knowing a lot, like being either a really advanced developer in Node.js. You're gonna be able to build amazing applications just using Node.js without anything else. We know all the frameworks. We are gonna be using just bare Node.js with some tools. Now, this course originally is $200. You'll get it for $9.99 here. Okay? Now, you can also visit edwindiaz.com/node, and that would take you to this code right here. That would take you to that course, and it will apply the discount. Now, if you have not done so already, please leave me a review. But if it's not 5 stars, let me know, okay? Because I want to fix the course. I want to fix this and make it a 5-star course. I want you to help me out. So please don't give me a review unless it's 5 stars. Lastly, I want to thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. If it wasn't because of you, I wouldn't be here, okay? I'm teaching you because I have students just like you watching my content, and they motivate me to keep teaching more. Thank you so much. I wish you the best in life. If you have any questions, I'm here. Just send me a message to edwindiaz.com, edwin@edwindiaz.com, or send me a message through the platform, okay? Or you can even go to